All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. Should be below the video if you're on a smaller screen, to the right of the video if you are on a larger screen. So looks like we have a couple questions in there. So first question is from Mark A. Says, how do you prevent snatching the club from the top of the backswing? Snatching the club. Mark, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Snatching the club from the top of the backswing. Maybe asking a little different way. I'm not really sure exactly what you mean by that. Snatching the club. So while Mark is come up with a new way, we'll move on to Rob R. Says, Quentin, if you could answer two questions for me on the speed training program. First, I have speed sticks. Do you recommend I use those for the drills, practice swings? So, um, well, as far as for the 20-minute distance fix, I don't recommend doing the speed training or doing using speed sticks in doing the 20-minute distance fix. It's meant to be used doing a club. But as far as do I recommend doing speed sticks, I definitely think they can be helpful. So basically, here's the way I look at it. Essentially, the 20-minute distance fix is really going to get you your low hanging fruit, right? It's going to give you the technical pieces in your swing to help you um, to gain some speed, right? So basically, when it comes down to creating more speed or getting more speed, it comes down to one: can we create the space, right? So what that means is getting a big turn, getting high hands, essentially, right? If you're going sledding, you would try to find the tallest, the biggest and steepest hill to sled down, right? You wouldn't try to find a little baby hill because you're just not going to be able to create much speed from there. But from a really tall and steep hill, a big hill, right, we're going to have way more time to be able to accelerate on the way down. And that's what that does in the golf swing. If I bring the club up to here versus only here, I'm going to be able to create a lot more speed from up there. So that's really the first piece. The second piece is using the ground effectively to be able to turn. So you could call that sequencing your movements in the proper way to be able to create speed, right? So basically using the ground, right? Pushing from the ground up to kind of get that whip-like effect, right? So the way that you kind of lag and release the club, that'd be another piece. And then another piece would be the neural adaptation. And that's really what the speed sticks are more for neural adaptation. Um, and basically what that means is training your neurological system to swing faster, right? So we do that. We do all these things in the 20-minute distance fix. Where the speed sticks can help you get a little bit more. There's a couple ways there. So one, and what the speed sticks are doing, again, it's training your neurological system to swing faster, right? They're not really going through all the technique and things like that, like we are in the 20-minute distance fix. They have their own protocol, which I would recommend doing. So I would kind of do their own protocol, but I would only do the speed sticks after you've basically hit a plateau with the 20-minute distance fix, because the 20-minute distance fix is going to be all the low hanging fruit, right? The speed training is going to be it's going to help you to maybe break through some plateaus a little bit. It's only going to give you a little bit more essentially. So what the speed sticks, there's a couple things that I like about them. So one is the over speed aspect of it. So basically, they're different weighted clubs that help you to essentially, it's almost like running downhill, right? If you're on downhill, you can sprint faster if you're running downhill because the hill is kind of forcing you to go faster than what your body can technically go. And that's kind of what the super speed training is doing. Is it's giving you a much lighter club that's allowing you to go faster than what you would normally be able to do with a normal club. So that's kind of the protocol. We have different weighted clubs because of that. So that helps a small amount. And then the main thing that I actually think with the speed training that helps you with the neurological part is that you're not hitting a golf ball. You're just swinging a stick. And you're swinging a stick, as hard as you can. So, with a golf club, with a golf ball, a lot of people just won't swing as hard as they can because it's just out of their comfort zone, right? And also, with golf balls, we've been programmed that we have to hit the ball solid and dead straight. When we don't do that, it doesn't feel good, right? So we've kind of programmed ourselves not to do that. And that's what you really need to do in speed training. When you're speed training, when you're truly doing it the correct way, there's going to be, it should feel out of control. Really, it should. And, it should be trying to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and understand that the goal is not to hit dead straight shots. The goal is to get the speed to go up. And as your 100% effort out of control speed goes up, your in control speed is going to go up as well. So that's kind of the idea behind that. And a lot of people have trouble sometimes letting that go. And because that's really when people don't make a lot of gains at the distance clinic, it's usually because they're not letting themselves go. They're really, really trying to hone things in. They really don't want to leave the middle of the club face, leave the middle of the fairway. The moment they hit a bad shot, they're frustrated. But that's not the goal of speed training. The goal of speed training is not to hit beautiful golf shots. The goal of speed training is to get more speed. So it's hard to detach from. It's just a different kind of training. And the 20-minute or the speed sticks can help you to detach from the result of a golf shot and help you to focus more in on the speed. And that's really what those things are. So that's what I like about them. Now there is another one out there that's called the stack system that I actually like a little bit more for a couple of reasons. One, it's one instead of multiple. I think that the speed sticks, which I do like the speed sticks. I just like the stack system a little bit more for, like I said, for a couple of reasons, because it's one club. That's got different weights on it, right? So it's kind of the same kind of thing with the overspeed training, but you have, it's detachable weight. So you don't have 4 clubs, it's just one club, and then you have like a weight kit that you would attach in there. And then the main thing that I really like about the stack system is they make it kind of foolproof. Essentially, it comes with a companion app that you have on your phone, and then all you have to do is just plug in the speeds that you're getting when you're going through the system, and then it's going to tell you what to do next based on the speeds that you're putting into it, right? So it's more of an interactive program. I think it's a little bit easier, I think, to work through it, and that's why I like the stack system a little bit more. But there's some other ones out there as well, but I do like the speed system. I do really like the stack system. I think there's Ripstick. I haven't used Ripstick, but I think it's a similar kind of thing. There's several of them out there, but I do like them. But my advice would be do the 20-minute distance fix, get everything you can out of that. Once you get to where you've essentially plateaued with it, and you've gone through it several times, and you're just not getting any more gains, that's when I would go toward the stack system or the super speed golf or something like that. All right, so it goes on to say the second seams, each drill builds on each other. So when you are doing a drill, so you should just focus on that one or incorporate all. For example, when I do the turn your shoulders drill, should I also be lifting the one left foot during that drill? All my work will be winter work indoors. Thanks. So here's what I would recommend doing. You can't really think about multiple things at once. To think that you're going to do, big turn, high hands, lag, release, push into the ground. You're just going to put everything together at one time. It's just not going to happen. So what I would recommend doing is I would just go through it the way that Clay talks about and just focus on what Clay is talking about in that video. And what you're going to see is that, maybe you'll get more speed from the shoulder turn, or maybe you'll get more speed when you do the sumo step, or you're going to see the things where you get more speed from. And then, as you work through it, let's say you work through it the first time and the catapult drill got you six miles per hour more. And then you work through the sumo step and, it got you 5 miles per hour more from what you were originally. Right. And that's not thinking about the shoulder turn. That's just thinking about the sumo step. right? And then you work on the lag release, and it didn't really do anything, right? You maybe got 1 mile per hour more, right? Or it was almost nothing. And then maybe do the high hands, and again, there wasn't anything there. So what that tells you is that there's two areas where you can get a lot of club head speed. So I would be working on those two pieces, putting extra time into those two pieces. I'd maybe go through it and do it again, see if you can build on where you were. And then as you get more comfortable with maybe two pieces, then you can try to put two pieces together. But trying to piece together everything at one time it's just not going to happen. You're just not going to be able to concentrate, and you're not going to be able to do multiple things, like 4 or 5 things really well at one time. You can do one thing really well at one time, and you can do maybe 2 things decently at one time, and you can only do them well if you're already kind of doing them well to begin with, right? So everyone's going to have different things that they do better. So that would be kind of what I'd be looking at. As I would go through each one, see the ones that give you the most results, and then maybe put some extra work on those things individually. And then as you're getting comfortable with those, and you feel like you could do it pairing it with something else, then I could maybe pair 2 together and do them together. But I wouldn't, just out of the gate try to put them together, because it's too difficult. All right, let's keep going. So Mark A says, how to prevent from casting the club in the backswing. Casting the club I assume you mean the downswing, not the backswing. So basically, it depends on the reason why you're casting the club, because there's lots of reasons why. The main reason I typically see for someone casting the club is because they're reacting to the club face being open, and then they're casting the club as a means to square it up, right? So when we're casting the club, essentially what we're doing is we're starting the release of the club. We're trying to get this club to release and get it to the golf ball. The sooner we can do that, the sooner you can release the club, the sooner that club face is going to get closed. So what we want to understand is that releasing the club is a means, it's a mechanism to get the club face closed. So let me show you an example. If I'm here, right? So pretend like you're the camera, right? And your camera is from the golf ball view. So you're seeing this club come in, right? And this club face is open. Well, what I can do to square that up is I can stall my body and then cast the club, and now the club face is square, right? But now, if I have that same club face open, but then I rotate my body and I start to release the club, but I don't release it enough, well, look at that club face. It's wide open, right? So the ball's just going to go a mile to the right. So that's typically what's happening, is this club face is very open at the top of the swing. And then we just start casting it right away to get the club face closed. That's the typical thing that I see is the reason for that. It's hard for me to know for sure without seeing your swing and seeing some other things that could be going on. But that's the typical thing that I see, is we're doing that to get the club face closed. We're casting the club right away to get it closed. Because if we were to lag it, right? So if we go up to the top and then lag it, well, that would just open the face some more. And then we would just, cast from there. So if I had to guess, you're more than likely, you're either coming down steep or the face is very open, or both, or there's something else going on. But those are kind of the main things. So steep is where the club is coming down more vertically like this. And then what we have to do is we have to stand up out of it to get the club to work mildly from the inside. Because if you look here, that shallows out the club if I stand up, right? Whereas if I stayed in my posture and rotated through and released the club out in front, well, I just come way over the top with a very open face. That's going to be a big slice. So if you're hitting functional golf shots, odds are your face is open and or you're coming down steep and you're just standing up and casting the club to be able to hit a functional shot from those positions. So what I would recommend doing, because odds are, like I said, you're either coming down steep or you have an open face. You probably need to work through the 20-minute shallowing fix. That course is to help you to get the club face more closed and to help you to get the club working more from the inside. So that way you don't have to stand up to shallow it, right? So that's what I would recommend doing, is go to that course and see if that helps get rid of the casting. a lot of times people are really focused on trying to get this to stop, but that's not the root cause. You have to find the root cause as to why you're doing that. It's usually what we're doing is reacting to the club face, where the club face is pointing, right? And we're reacting to the shaft, right? Because to hit a good golf shot, we have to have the club face square at contact, right? And we have to have the club arcing in a good way to the golf ball that matches up to your club face. So what that means is, you've heard of in to out or out to in, right? If I'm swinging in to out, right, as a right-handed golfer, I'm swinging more toward to the right. So my swing arc is like in that direction. If I'm out to in, my swing arc is to the left direction, right? So to hit a shot on target, I need to have my club face square to, in the general direction of where I'm wanting to hit it. And I need to have my arc also relatively in that same direction to get it to be going in that direction. So if I have this club down like this and I have the face open, well, I'm going to make some sort of, because if I had this face wide open, and then I had this club coming down steep, and then if I were to move my body like a tour player from there, well, I would just come so far over the top with an open face, I probably wouldn't even be able to hit the ball. It would probably just, if I were to hit the ball, it'd be a big slice, is what it would be, right? So when we look at tour players, what they have the club in a good position that allows them to stay in their posture. The club face is in a position that's going to allow them not to have to stand up and release it to get it squared up. It's already going to be in a good position to allow them to turn into the golf ball. So that's really what the 20-minute shallowing fix does, is it helps you to get the club in a better position coming down, and it helps you to get the club face in a better position coming down, so you don't have to make these compensations coming down into impact to be able to hit a functional shot. You are going to be incentivized to now stay in your posture, rotate, not cast the club. You're going to, be incentivized to have your hands in front at impact. You have to set yourself up to be incentivized to do that. Because if you're not, then you're going to do something else. So odds are you're probably casting the club to help you hit functional golf shots. If you didn't cast the club, you would probably hit horrendous golf shots, right? So what you need to do is you need to put yourself in position to do that. So I'd recommend the 20-minute shallowing fix. Outside of that, I would need to see your swing to know for sure what's going on there. I do offer online lessons. So if you're interested in working with me, you can join my swing reviews. I have one spot available right now. Let me double check that. Yeah, so I have one spot available right now. You can click the link at the top of the screen there. There should be a link there where you can join my lessons, and I can take a look at your swing and tell you exactly what you need to do. But without seeing it, I would recommend the 20-minute shallowing fix. To get to that 20-minute shallowing fix, if you want to check it out, maybe understand a little bit more, and obviously I'll answer any other questions you have about it, but if you want to check it out to see, what might be going on there, just click the instruction tab, then click the 20-minute shallowing fix so you can get to it from there. I apologize. I think my neighbor's doing yard work, so I apologize if there's some loud noise, but yeah, keep the questions coming here. Keep answering them. So Betsa O says, I'm struggling with a strong fade shot and seem to cast through impact to make it solid, which I ultimately causes a draw. What else can I do? Well, we need to get the club face more closed, right? So, you have to get in order to we have to be incentivized to get to not cast the club, right? So in order to be incentivized not to cast the club, you have to get the club face closed, right? Because that incentivizes you to release it later, to not cast it, right? So what I'd recommend doing, there's basically two ways to close the club face. Let me turn around my video here. There's two ways. So one, the easiest way is to strengthen the grip. So when I look at the grip, I think the easiest way to think about it, and this is what Butch Harmon does. I really like the way that he talks about it, but essentially, and he may not have came up with this, but he's the one who I kind of first heard talking about the V's, right? So the V would be this crease that is created between your thumb and your hand. So if I have a weak grip, that crease is going to be pointed more toward my chin. If I have a stronger grip where my hand's more on top of the grip, right? So if I have a stronger grip where my hand's more on top, you can see where that crease is now pointing more toward my right shoulder. So this would be a strong grip where you can see the crease is pointed outside my right shoulder. This would be a weak grip where it's a little bit harder to see, but you can see how those are pointed up toward my chin. And then neutral would be kind of in this area in the middle of your shoulder would kind of be a weak grip. So that's one way to get the club face closed, is to strengthen the grip. That's really the first way and the easiest way to do it. And it's the first thing that you do in the 20-minute shallowing fix is you find your natural grip. Most people's natural grip is going to be a strong one. It's just that they don't think of it. A lot of people, when they grip the club, right, they're gripping the club as they're addressing the golf ball. So they're thinking of what is the most comfortable position right here. And I think that's why a lot of people have weak grips, because when you set up to the golf ball, this is just the most comfortable place to be, right? I have the club of the handle in the center of my body, which when the club's in the center of my body, it's just more comfortable to have those V's basically pointed up toward the chin, right? Now, if I were to get a strong grip, right, and then put that club in the center of my body, that's just not comfortable. I'm really feel like I have to straighten my arm out a ton. My wrist is very bent and kind of, it's just not in a very comfortable position. This feels also very weak, right? Whereas we would more than likely be better off having a more relaxed position with a strong grip, which puts the hands more forward at address, right? This is very, very comfortable with a strong grip. And now you can see where my V's are pointing. All right, so that would be number one. The reason why that closes the club face is essentially what you're doing is you're just turning the club in your hand, right? So if I have a weak grip, my club's in my hand like this, and then if I strengthen it, I turn my hand on there. But now if I put my hand back to where it was, well, look, the club face is closed, right? So that's the first thing. It is the easiest thing to do is just close the club face. The other option is to strengthen our wrist angles. So you can think of that as flexion in the lead wrist. So that's this here. This is what Dustin Johnson does, right? He does this, and then extension in the trail wrist. Those have to work together, right? So I can't have flexion and then extension, or excuse me, flexion and then have something else with my trail wrist. They have to work together. So it's almost, I would think of it almost like a throttling move. So I'm throttling. You can see how that closes the face. I'm throttling, and then with my trail hand again, I'm kind of doing a reverse throttle, doing an underhand throttle, right? Move. You can see how that closes the club face. So you have to do one or both, or a combination of both of those things. So if you look at a player like a Sergio Garcia, he has a pretty strong grip. When he is at impact, he looks like this, right? His lead wrist may even appear to be cupped. It's not. If you look at it from this angle, it's actually very flat, but it appears to be cupped, but when it actually isn't, right? If you're a player like Collin Morikawa, who has a very weak lead hand grip, he has kind of a neutral trail hand grip, but his lead hand is very weak. When he is at impact, he looks like this. His wrist looks like this. So, to me, I think for most people, this is a difficult thing to do. And I actually recently saw a video of Collin Morikawa and Dustin Johnson both talking to each other. They didn't even know they were doing this. He said they had people come up to him and talk to him and ask him, like, how do you bow your wrist like that? And he's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even know he's doing it. It's just something that came intuitively to him to square up the club face. But that's one thing that you can do. Now, I'm not saying just because it doesn't come naturally to you, you shouldn't try to do it. If it's something that is easier for you to do, then do it. I mean, the reality is that if you want your swing to be better, you're going to have to consciously think about doing things. If you don't naturally have a beautiful golf swing, right, it's not going to naturally just happen out of nowhere, right? You're going to have to actually make physical changes if you want them to change. Most tour players are in that boat where they've made, or most really good players have made physical changes to your golf swing. Tiger made lots of physical changes to his golf swing. Lots of players have. Adam Scott has. Ben Hogan was notorious for making physical changes in his golf swing. So it's not to say that you should only do what comes natural to you, because if what comes natural to you leads to bad results, you should probably change it, right? But basically, those are the options. You either need to strengthen the grip or strengthen the wrist angles or do a combination of those two. You have to be incentivized to have your hands forward. If the face is open, then you have no incentive to have your hands forward, because if you do, you're just going to hit it even worse, even a bigger slice. So get a stronger grip, right? Get a stronger grip or stronger wrist angles. And that's what I'd recommend. So that way you're incentivized to not cast the club. You're incentivized to have better control of the club face. And the other thing is, if you're not physically capable of rotating your body, then you don't really have much choice but to cast the club, because you have to. And I only say that because I know Bet's on here. He's in the ball striking masterclass. And I know he's got some physical limitations. Forgive me because I can't remember exactly what they are. But if those physical limitations basically inhibit you from being able to rotate your body very well, then it's going to be very difficult to stop casting, right? Because if you think about it this way, if I'm rotating and turning my body and then I stall my body, let's say I just completely stop my body, what's going to happen to the club, right? So if I start swinging and then let's say I just grab my arm and I stop it, what's going to happen? The club's going to flip in front, right? So if I'm not physically capable of rotating my body and basically leading with my body to the golf ball, if I'm not physically capable of doing that, then I'm going to have a hard time not casting the club. And in that situation, you may want a weaker grip because it's going to match up with what you can physically do, right? You can only do what you're physically capable of doing, right? So, if you can't rotate your body, you're just not going to be able to get tons of shaft lean, and you're not going to be able to look like Dustin Johnson at impact. It's just not going to happen. You may be able to do it in a short swing, like where you push your hands forward like that, but in a full swing at full speed, there's just no way you're going to be able to control and be able to realistically get your hands in front and release the club out in front if you're not physically capable of rotating your body. So that would be another thing that I'd be thinking about. Again, Bets, I apologize. I can't remember exactly what. I remember you had like a back or a spine thing or something like that. Can't remember exactly what it is. Forgive me. I talked to hundreds of students. So, but I do remember you had something physical. And if that inhibits you from rotating, then, man, it's just going to be difficult to get that club out in front. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you got to know what you're physically capable of doing. It doesn't mean you cannot play good golf. I would not look at it like that. Now, are you going to get to a pro level? No, probably not, because it's just if you're not able to get shaft lean, you're not able to get to an elite level, right? But you're still going to be able to play some good golf. It's just going to involve, you got to match things up to what you can physically do. So having a weaker grip and releasing the club earlier, that may actually match up well for you to be able to hit functional golf shots, right? So that'd be one thing to think about. Again, I'm not sure if that's something that you need to think about because I can't remember everything, but yeah, that's something to think about for sure. All right, so keep the questions coming. We got about 30 minutes left here. So Dan S says played around today with a high temp of 35 speed. That's crazy. 35 degrees. Good for you, man. No way I would be out there. Speed and net training paid off. Good drives despite the cold temps on the green and two on a 455. Dang, it's that cold. That's awesome. Long and straight for me. That's great. Yeah, if I was hitting it that good, I might want to be out there at that at those temps, but you're not going to catch me. I played a lot of golf. I basically grew up in the Midwest. It was fairly normal to play golf in those kinds of conditions. We actually had a golf cart with like the tarps on the side, had a little heater inside of it. But after I moved to Florida, I kind of become a wuss when it comes to the cold temps and playing golf. The 35 is definitely, I would definitely not be out there. Walking to keep warm. Oh man. At least when I played when it was really cold, I was getting into a heated cart. But walking without the heated cart would actually be better for sure. As long as it's not windy. If it gets windy, then it's brutal. So Beth says, so I am significantly behind in the coursework, but am making good progress. But between weather, physical limitations, I can't seem to catch up. Any suggestions? I just do the course at your own pace. You don't have to do it at the pace that we have on there. You can really do the course at your own pace. You're going to have access to the. Betts is talking about the ball striking masterclass, I assume, anyway, since I know he's in there. But yeah, you have access to that course for as long as you are Top Speed Golf member. So yeah, do it at your own pace. 3 months. So we give you an extra month in there because we know life gets in the way. You might have a little injury bug that makes you have to take a week off or something like that. So we built that right into it. So that way nobody has to ask for extra time. And we just give everyone 4 months. It's 4 months, whether you need it or not, basically. So just do it at your own pace. You can catch up if you want to try to. You can combine sessions. You can do that. But I would definitely try to make sure that it's still a quality session, and you're not just trying to rush through it to try to catch up. Make sure that it's good quality. I'd much rather have a good quality session than try to rush through it. So Bill H says, I have a problem with laying off the club early in my backswing, which causes me to come in steep frequently. Any drills that may be helpful? Yeah, just try to go way across the line. That's what I'd be trying to do, is just really try to feel like you're way across the line at the top. Really, the best approach, there isn't really, golf instruction is really as simple as this. It's whatever you're doing that is the issue, which you already know. So what Bill is talking about is he's laying it off, and then when he's coming down, he's basically pulling the club down, and the club's getting steep, right? So that's what it sounds like. So if you know that this is the problem, right, then what is the exact opposite of that? Well, the exact opposite of really laying it off is to be way across the line. So I would go ahead and let your elbow flare a little bit. Go ahead and push that club across the line at the top, right? And see if that puts you in a better position. And then if you overdo it, then just ease off it a little bit. So it's just really just the fault, feel, real approach. The fault is this, right? The feel, it would be this, right? Where you're way across the line at the top, right? And hopefully that gets the club shallowing out. And then hopefully reality is something that's like this, where the club's just in a better position, and then you get it working and shallowing in the start of the downswing. So I would just really exaggerate, and I would maybe do some mirror work. You know, get in the mirror, get in front of a mirror, looking this way, and just see, okay, am I across the line? All right, I'm good. I'm gonna feel that club shallow out and swing through. So that way I know what that looks like. And then just try to do the same thing in a swing, right? So that's what I try to do, is just work your way up to kind of pausing at the top, looking in the mirror, or looking at yourself on video. What I like to do is I actually like to take my iPad, put it in selfie mode, and kind of look at myself as I'm doing things. So that way I can see if what I'm doing is working or helping or not, right? So yeah, that's all I would recommend doing. I wouldn't. It doesn't need to be any kind of complicated fix or anything like that. You know what the issue is. It's just a matter of breaking it down, exaggerating, working your way up from slow practice swings to faster practice swings. Billett says makes sense. Thanks, no problem. So we got 20 or so minutes left. We got some more questions. If you're just jumping on here, I'm just doing some of my other work I gotta do. So just waiting for a question to be asked. So if you got one, feel free to post it. So Dan says, you have said you hit foam balls in the house in the winter. Do you use them outside? And do you feel they give realistic results for fades and draws? I don't use them outside. And no, I don't think that they give realistic results for fades and draws. Um, for a couple of reasons. One, they're very effective. If there's any wind at all outside, they will be affected because they're just much lighter than a normal golf ball. So any kind of breeze is or wind's going to push them, and it may make a slice look like a draw or vice versa. So that's part of it, and also. They're not perfectly round balls. Typically, they have seams on them, and they're cheaply made. So that in of itself can make the ball spin in different directions and draw and fade when you actually didn't hit it with a draw and a fade. So no, I don't really recommend using them to hit draws and fades. I mean, you can if that's all you have, but just understand that they're not going to be the best to use because of the imperfections of the ball are going to make it spin and curve in different directions, and also because they're highly affected by wind, much more than like a normal golf ball. Was curious because sometimes I get extreme results. Yeah, so yeah, if you hit you could hit a ball with just a little bit of draw, but if it's got some imperfection with the ball, and then you add maybe a little bit of a breeze, just a little puff of wind, those things are gonna curve like crazy, way more than normal golf balls. So that's why I don't really like. I really only use foam balls, and I hit them. I just have the foam balls there, so that way I'm hitting at something. Like a wadded up piece of paper can work just fine as well. I'm just using it so that way I can hit something, because when I'm usually working on in my garage, I'm not really working on ball flights. Typically, I'm just working on technical changes. And then when I go to the range, so that way I can actually see balls flying, that's when I would use, or if I'm in on the simulator or something like that, I can see the ball flight. I still prefer outside to that, but definitely something I do. So Beth says, I have a question about a wedge to fill a 70 and 95 yard gap. What loft is most appropriate? A lot of that depends on club head speed, but what I do is I'm basically hitting, that would be like a gauged wedge. For me, that'd be like a 54 degree. So a 95 yard shot for me would be about a 3/4 54 degree. And then if I want to hit 70, right? If I want to hit 70, what I could do is hit more like kind of like an 8 o'clock. So 9 o'clock would be like a 3/4. I could hit like at 8 o'clock, and that would probably get me pretty close to that 70-yard range. What I'd recommend doing is using the clock system. This is from the Top Speed Golf Wedge system to help you kind of gauge how far to hit shots. And then another way to take distance off of a shot is to choke up on a club. Because basically what it comes down to is all things equal, it's loft and then the speed at which you hit it with the loft, right? So how can you control the speed of the club? Well, you can control the speed of the club by the length of the swing that you take. A longer swing you take, typically the more speed you're going to have. If you're swinging with the same tempo, right, the longer swing you have, you're going to have more speed because it's just more time to kind of accelerate the club and create speed. If you use a shorter swing, there's going to be less speed. The other way would be to choke up on the club. So longer clubs are going to swing faster than shorter clubs. You think about like a fan, right? If it's a fan, the tips of the fan blades are going to be moving a lot faster than the inner portions of the fan blades, right? So that's the similar thing to a shorter club not going as fast as a longer club. So if I choke up on a club, I'm effectively making the club shorter, and it's not going to swing as fast. So those are the ways that you can basically adjust. You can adjust your tempo too. Swing with a much faster tempo can create more speed, and swing with a very slow tempo can take some off. But I recommend players kind of have a general similar tempo with all of their clubs and try to keep that fairly constant. And then you're changing the speed at which you are hitting the ball with the length of the swing and the length of the club that you're using. So choking up on it, right? So typically, for me, if I choke up on a club 1 inch, that will typically take 7 to 10 yards off of it, typically, right? So let's say I had that 95-yard shot that you talked about. I said that was a 3/4, 54 degrees. So that'd be a full, right? If I wanted to hit it 85 yards, I could make that same swing and just choke up 1 inch and just make the exact same swing, right? And the ball will go shorter because I've used a shorter club to do that. Now, other ways that you can hit the ball farther is with the loft of the club, right? So I can de-loft it a ton, and I can basically make the club a more de-lofted club, or I can release it sooner, right? But that's a pretty advanced way to control the distance. I would recommend kind of doing, kind of taking a normal swing. It's just a lot easier to control the distance. Now, if you're trying to control to hit, you want to hit it lower, right? Then it might be good to try to de-loft it. But generally, it's going to be easier to control your distance with shortening the length of the club and or the speed at which you hit. So Bill H says, which numbers are more important, clubhead speed or ball speed, and why? That's a really good question. So the answer is ball speed, but you don't have ball speed without clubhead speed. So clubhead speed is essentially your limiter to ball speed. So ultimately, the ball speed is the most important thing. Like if you swing 120 miles per hour, but then your ball speed is 140 miles an hour, right? Then the clubhead speed is not the most important thing in that situation, right? So I think I'm going to change my answer. It really depends on the player, right? So if you're swinging 120 miles per hour and then your ball speed is 140 miles per hour, well, the problem is not the clubhead speed; it's the ball speed. The ball speed is a more important aspect in that situation because that player is not getting what they should be getting out. They're not getting the ball speed that they should be getting out of their clubhead speed, right? So generally, we should get about, for a driver, we should get about 1.5 times the clubhead speed for ball speed. So if you're swinging 120 miles per hour, 1.5 times 120 would be 180, right? So your ball speed should be like 180 miles per hour if your clubhead speed is 120. If it's 140, then your contact or your driver is broken. Something's wrong, right? So yeah, the most important thing there would be the ball speed. You'd be looking at, okay, well, why am I not getting the ball speed I should be? Now let's say you want to hit it farther and you're swinging 80 miles per hour, right? And your ball speed is 120 miles per hour, right? Well, 1.5 times 80 is 120. So the ball speed is not the issue here. The club head speed is the issue. That's the issue. If you want to hit the ball farther, that ball speed will not go up unless the club head speed goes up, right? So what I would say is if you're not hitting the ball efficiently and you want to hit it farther, then I would try to improve your ball speed, right? Try to get 1.5 times your club head speed for your ball speed. Now, if you are getting pretty close to 1.5, the tour average is like 1.48, what they get. But typically the way the clubs are built, the best you're going to be able to do legally for the club heads is going to be about 1.5. It doesn't mean you can't ever get over 1.5. You can get 1.53. It's possible. There's a lot of things that have to kind of line up perfectly for that to happen, but it's possible to be able to do that. We won't get into why that is, but generally on a center face struck shot, if you have a legal club, right, you're going to get about 1.5 times your club head speed. So that's that's what I would say. Club head speed's way more important if your club head speed's basically really low, but you're hitting it solid. You're not getting the distance that you want. The ball speed would be very important if your club head speed's actually pretty good, but then you're just not getting the speed that you should be having because you're just not hitting the ball very well. All right, so let's keep going. So Beth says, I use a sand wedge up to 75 yards anymore, and it gets sloppy. Yeah, so I just use whatever your next lofty club is. So you can use a pitching wedge, or like a lot of people have a gap wedge. So what I carry, here's basically how I roll as far as the wedge shots are concerned. Typically under 50 yards, I'm going to use my 58 degree. That's my highest lofty club. That's typically what I'm going to be using 50 yards and in. Sometimes if I want to bring it in lower, let's say I have a shot where I just don't need to get a lot of spin, I might use my 54 degree in that situation for like a 40, 50 yard shot. But generally, I'm using my 58 from 50 yards and in. And then from 50 to 100, I'm using my 54 degree. And I don't ever take a full swing with that club. Again, a 100-yard shot for me with my 54 degree is generally going to be a little over a 3/4 swing. It's not quite a full swing. I've discussed this before, but I don't like taking full swings with wedges. It's just not necessary. You have to hit it with more speed. And the more speed you hit a wedge with and the more off you are, the more catastrophic the failure can be. So if I'm trying to hit a 58 degree, 100 yards, I could if I tried to kill it, right? But if I blade that shot, that's not good. That's going to be really bad. And also, the higher lofted club is going to have a sharper leading edge. I'm going to be more likely to chunk it, right? So it just doesn't make sense to me to hit full wedge shots, but that's just me. That's just what I like to do. I'm just passing it along to you guys because I think it makes sense. You may think it makes sense too, and who knows? Maybe it'll knock a stroke off your round, right? So that's what I do. And then from basically 100 to about 125, 130, I have a 50 degree, and that's what I use from there, from about 100 to 130. I might take a full swing with the 50 degree wedge just because it's not going to be that big deal. If I miss it a little bit, or if I blade it a little bit, it's not going to be, because it's not as low aloft as a 58 degree, right? So it's not going to blade as bad, essentially. A bladed 50 degree is going to be a lot different than a bladed 58 degree because it just doesn't have as sharp of a leading edge on it. So a bladed 50 degree just isn't going to go quite as far. You know what I mean? So I might hit. I honestly don't know how far I could probably hit it 135, but I hit it up to 130, and that's pretty close to a full swing. And then from up there, I use a pitching wedge. 130 plus to probably 145. I'll use a pitching wedge. But yeah, I would just use your next club up. That's completely fine. You don't have to use and that might be what you mean by it getting sloppy. So JP says, for the video analysis apps, the OnForm app has a fee to use as a TSU member? Is there a way to get a discount for the app for free use? If you do online lessons with an instructor, you will be able to use it for free. But if you don't, we don't have anything to give you to be able to use it for free. Now, I believe you can use it, but it's a small amount of video that you can save on it. I believe you can use it for free. It's just that you only have a small amount of videos that you can save on it. And if you want to save more videos, you have to pay a fee. But if you do online lessons with a Top Speed Golf instructor, once you get added to our roster, right? Once we invite you to use OnForm with us in the app, then at that time, then it's free. It's free use. It's everything. It's unlimited storage and everything else. So to get that, you have to sign up for the online lessons. I do have a spot available. Last I checked, Yep. So I still have a spot available. So if you'd like it, then you can click to join my lessons. But outside of that, yeah, we don't have anything that we can give you to be able to use it for free. So Bill H says, how would I raise my ball speed? Well, the easiest way, or I shouldn't say the easiest way. So there's several ways. So one would be so considering, say, all things are equal, if you raise your club head speed, that will also raise your ball speed. So there's always that. You can always raise your club head speed, right? Hitting the ball more in the center of the face can raise that would be kind of the next thing. If your ball speed isn't matching, isn't 1.5 times your club head speed with your driver, with good golf balls, also consider, maybe you're going to the range and you're seeing it's 1.4, 1.35, something like that. Range balls oftentimes won't give you good ball speeds because they're junky range balls, right? So that'd be one thing to keep in mind. So in that situation, it might be just hitting a better quality golf ball, right? So there would be that. But raising your club head speed, the next thing would be hitting the ball more solid. So just hitting it more in the center of the face. Use some foot power spray it on the club face. This driver right here, you can see I sprayed some foot power spray on there. You can clearly see where the strike is on the face, right? So use something like that to give you some feedback on where the strikes are on the club face, and that will help you to be able to, once if you're hitting the ball in the center of the face, odds are you're going to be getting all the ball speed you can out of your club head speed. The only way you wouldn't would be either your driver may be faulty, so maybe there's a crack, maybe there's there's the ferrule is kind of loose, the hossel's kind of loose, something's not quite right? So that could be part of it. Other part of it is you could be glancing across the ball. So if you are really cutting across the ball, coming down steep with a very open face, then that cutting across the ball can also lower your ball speeds. So that'd be something I'd be looking at. And then also, if you're hitting down on the ball with your driver a lot, so let's say you're chopping down onto it, that can also lower your ball speed. So imagine, if you're just trying to transfer as much energy into the ball as you can. So if my fist was a nail and I was trying to hammer that nail in with this club, I'd want to take this club and go directly down into it. I wouldn't want to come at it from the side, or like this. I'd want to go straight down into it. So that's what we want to do with the golf club. We want to bring that club right into the back of the ball, right? We don't want to cut across it or chop down on it. We want to bring it right into the back of the ball. And that's going to allow, and if you hit that in the center of the face, you're going to get as much ball speed as you can out of your club head speed. But but you can always raise your club head speed to get your ball speed to go up too. So that'd be kind of the thing. So club head speed, getting better center face contact, and then making sure you're not cutting across the ball. Those are all be things to help you to raise your club head speed. All right. Thanks everybody for joining me. We won't be here tomorrow. I do apologize. I thought I was going to be able to be here tomorrow, but I forgot we have a clinic tomorrow. So I won't be able to be here for office hours, and nobody was able to fill in for me. So I will be back Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a great weekend. And I will talk to you all on Monday.